size of this thing. When I think of fishing in the fall, two species immediately come to mind. That's muskies and smallmouth bass. Fall is an exciting time for both. Muskies are at their peak, and smallmouth are starting to move out deeper, beginning to feed heavily to prepare for winter. They're similar to bears in the sense that they fatten up. Right now, with the thermocline breaking down, ciscoes are moving up shallower from deeper water in preparation for their spawn, and these bait fish are super rich in nutrients, making them a perfect food source for bass. This creates an incredible opportunity for anglers to capitalize on aggressively feeding smallmouth by mimicking ciscoes. Today I'm going to share a few tips and techniques that help me catch and put more smallmouth in the boat every fall. It's a better fish.
Better?
I think so. Yeah. Look at that.
Oh, beauty.
It's a pretty good fish right there. They've been loving the freeloader every single drop. This time of year when they're keying in on those fish, it's they can't resist it. Just rock solid. Man, are they ever just feeding up. Water's cold, 50 degrees on the nose, and they're eating like crazy. So first let's talk about moping. Moping's a technique that was popularized by Jeff Gustafson when he won the Bassmaster Classic with it. It's well known now, but we've been using it for quite a while on Lake of the Woods to target bass and even lake trout. When I first started moping, really, it was a lake trout technique through the ice, and it's just imitates. That's what lake trout are eating as well as these ciscoes. So it does a great job at imitating ciscoes, and it just morphed into one of my primary bass techniques. And the beauty of this method is that it allows you to keep your bait perfectly horizontally in the water column, imitating bait fish naturally. You can fish it multiple ways: cast and retrieve, pitch it towards a fish that you mark on live imaging, or drop it vertically over the side of the boat. My go-to approach is often just dead sticking it. Even if you hold your rod as still as possible, all the slight movements from the boat, your hand, you can never hold your hand perfectly still, and they all create subtle actions that mimic swimming of a bait fish perfectly. You don't have to do much in order to get this bait to work properly. Fine-tuning is key. I always start with two moping baits tied on, one larger one and one smaller one. For example, Rapala's CrushCity line includes the 5-inch jerk and the Freeloader, which are two great options for the larger profiles. They may look similar, but they behave differently in the water due to the material and the design. They're shaped slightly differently, and one's super TPE material that floats, and the other is a phthalate-free PVC that actually sinks. The jerk's the one that floats while the Freeloader sinks, and their distinct tail designs provide enough variation that you will see a change in preference. It's 6 to 1/2 dozen of the other, but one of them can definitely outperform the other from time to time. And as for the smaller profiles, I alternate between the 3 3/4 inch jerk, that's the original jerk, and the new Mooch Minnow. Again, the subtle differences in the profile and action can trigger bites, and again, 6 to 1/2 dozen of the other, which one they'll prefer, but often there is a preference. So experimenting with these two options can help you dial in with what the fish are keying in on. So like I said, I start out with one of the two larger options and one of the two smaller options tied on. I start with two rods, one larger, one smaller, and if you identify that they prefer the larger or the smaller profile, you can refine further. If they're hitting larger baits, I'll test between the Freeloader and the 5-inch jerk to find which action works best. For the smaller baits, I'll compare the Mooch Minnow and the jerk. These small adjustments can really make a big difference, especially when targeting smallmouth that are keying in heavily on ciscoes, smelt, or shiners. Look at the size of this thing. That was an old warrior on the freeloader. They've been liking the big baits today. That's an awesome fish. Long and fat too, it's pretty heavy. One more tip I should say is that I often use a tungsten jig head, like the new VMC tungsten swim bait head. Its compact size allows you to fish heavier weights without overpowering the bait's action. This keeps your lure in the strike zone, even in windy conditions or deeper water, while maintaining natural movement and shape. Going to tungsten allows you to have a heavier weight to get down, stay down, but you don't have an overpowering head that just doesn't fit the profile of the lure. So going tungsten lets you keep it sleek, but also heavy. Fall bass fishing is all about understanding their movements, really. After spawning in the spring, bass gradually shift from shallow water to deeper structure like rock points and sand flats. By fall, they often concentrate on deeper humps, feeding heavily in the depths of, I would say, 18 to 25 is where I find most of my fish. Looking for tightly bunched fish on your electronics, those clusters are gold. These fish bunch up tightly, and we're looking for the tight clusters on that structure. Keep your bait above the fish, 2 to 6 feet higher off bottom. This forces them to actually look up and make an aggressive move. This increases your chances of a hit. Hanging the bait too close to the bottom often reduces their willingness to attack. I see all the time that if I lift my bait up off bottom and you actually get their head to turn and start chasing, they're a lot more likely to hit it if you get them running as opposed to coming up slowly, dangling it right in their face and trying to trigger a strike that way. If you keep it high enough that these fish have to turn and chase, you're much more likely to get hit. Fall smallmouth fishing is unbeatable. When the fish are shaped like bathtubs, feeding hard in preparation for winter, it's one of my favorite things to do, and not much beats it. Okay, just ended the day on a double header. This one's got lockjaw. 100% done on minnow baits, which is awesome. These things are feeding up for winter. Ciscoes, smelt are so calorie dense that these things are thick, feeding on minnows. And if you play around with different sizes, and then when you get the sizes dialed in, play around with slightly different presentations. The minnow bait is seems like a fairly generic presentation, but you can really dial it down if you want to, and I think you should. We put a lot of fish in the boat today, probably 60, 70, and averaging 3 pounds. We got several 4-pounders. It was a heck of a day, and like I said, 100% on minnow baits. So if you guys want to do the similar thing, you'll put a lot more fish in the boat.